Hi everyone, this is Autopostrophe. Let's check out the Mortal Kombat 1 beta. This is running on PlayStation 5. Kind of an unusual time to go live, 8 in the morning, PST, but yeah, or I guess PDT. And I imagine it'll be a little bit congested since it's just opening up. So we'll see how easy we can make a connection. I am playing on a True Boost all button style controller. So you can see that. And I've just got some custom artwork on it right now. These all button controllers remind me of the Asteroids cabinet, so that's why I have that artwork on there. Okay, good start. Like I said, I imagine that it'll be a little tough to get in at first. That is the nature of a beta. And unfortunately, for folks who have the PC version, you won't have access to the beta because, thank you, Warner Brothers. So you'll have to have an Xbox or a PlayStation version of this game. And purchase the premium edition. So that goes for 109 USD, or I guess 110 USD. So not a cheap option. And I prefer to play my fighting games on a PC, so it does kind of suck to have to purchase two different versions to get access to the beta. And we may not even be able to play something in the first hour if things keep going the way they are. But I did find it interesting, the menu music in the PlayStation home screen. It's very serene music. It definitely didn't sound very Mortal Kombat-y to me. But this game is trying to go into a slightly different direction. At least the first part of the game's story. So we're going to see an idyllic world in the Mortal Kombat Universe, at least to start. And I'm sure things will go south at some point in the story, usually pretty quickly. They've had a number of reveals already for Mortal Kombat. I think there's only 4 more characters, maybe 6, that have still been left in mystery. This is the same build that was available at EVO, so unfortunately this isn't an exclusive build available only to people that purchased the premium edition, which I would have liked. I would have liked to have something a little bit more specialized for folks as a reward for spending the extra money, and it's quite a bit extra. So far, this game's been looking good as far as all the previews go. I think Warner Brothers has been doing a pretty good job marketing it, and all the trailers and things that they've cut have been pretty impressive. I've been playing Mortal Kombat since the original arcade release, so been a fan of fighting games just in general. I know I don't really cover them on the channel that much. I'm not part of the big community that covers fighting games 24/7. I really don't have the skill set for that kind of coverage, but I do enjoy them quite a bit. And I kind of fall into the SNK camp more. I tend to like those games the best. But Mortal Kombat sits at number 2, and the Street Fighter series sits at number 3 for me. Although putting them in numbered order is kind of silly because they basically all sit at number 1. Because I don't really consider them like so different that I would actually drop them a whole number, in games that I want to play. I'd stick Soul Calibur and Virtua Fighter in there as well. Although Virtua Fighter, hasn't had an entry in whatever, 6 years, 7 years. It's been a long time since Virtua Fighter 5. They did a release called Ultimate Battle, which was good, but it was just a conversion of the last release of Virtua Fighter 5. It's kind of a shame. I'd love to see another entry in that series, but that team that makes that game really doesn't exist anymore. And the members that are left, sort of feel that Virtua Fighter, whenever something gets released in the Virtua Fighter series, has to innovate in some way. It has to bring some sort of new technology, into the engine, of how to play the game. So, I think that's okay. But I think after such a long time, I think fans really don't necessarily care about the innovations that the series has brought over. I mean, I think with Virtua Fighter 3, it was like a snow and sand simulation, because you could fight in the snow. Then Virtua Fighter 4 was just a major engine upgrade, so we got more impressive physics. Virtua Fighter 5 bringing in even more physics and really good materials for all the costumes. Even having individual weight for each character. Them behaving differently. I think the big hubbub now would be to incorporate full-on ray tracing in the Virtua Fighter engine. So they could bring that there, but I don't know if that's good enough for that team. They probably wouldn't feel that ray tracing is a high enough showcase for them. And this is NRS's first Unreal Engine 4 game. So previous games, at least from the 3D game, I think from Mortal Kombat 9 and up, were using Unreal Engine 3, modified specifically for this team. So I'll be curious to see how well they handle Unreal Engine 4, which is kind of a notorious engine, known for a number of pre-compiler issues. Like I said, I don't know how long it'll take us to get in. We may not be able to even get in the first hour. I would think the initial stress test would have given them a good idea of, the kind of server spread available that they would need for, login and hosting of these matches. But it was such a limited number of invites for that stress test. I'm not sure how useful that data was, other than how to manage traffic better. But then we have a large influx of players, from the who purchased the Xbox and PlayStation Premium editions. I don't know if there's a good way to predict how many people need to log on at the exact same time. Seems like they did underestimate this. So we get to see this very nice looking opening screen menu at this point in time. We're 10 minutes in. With some interesting music. Again, the music choices in Mortal Kombat 1 are really different. It's also my understanding that John Tobias joined the team, at least temporarily. I don't know if he's now back at NRS or not, to help with all the backgrounds. he left NRS quite a long time ago to pursue his own ventures. But he was always known as the background and story guy back in classic Mortal Kombat days. And I don't know how much work he did into the backgrounds, whether he was just lead or he liked specific pieces of artwork. But the new art direction does show like a lot more rich detail. I don't know how much we want to attribute that to him, but certainly if that's the case, if he really pushed for more intricate backgrounds, then yeah, more power to him. Good job. I think that's one of the things that we can say for sure is that while the graphics are not, at least on the individual characters, they don't seem like a huge step up from 11. I mean, they are a step up, but it's really these backgrounds that have been shown on all these previews that have been the most impressive. I am running a wired connection. I can't imagine who could give your PlayStation 5 to a wireless connection. Seems like a rather sincere waste of power. Even as fast as the network card in the PlayStation is. And I have a gig connection, gig up and down. So it's certainly not my connection that would have a hard time making the handshake. I just imagine that these servers are incredibly stressed right now. I do wonder what the numbers are for folks that bought the premium edition. Like if it's a significant number, or if most people are waiting for the actual release day, where the numbers will kind of surge. I think that happens pretty typically, because it is a rather large price tag to swallow. It's too bad there isn't an offline version of this. I mean, just to sort of combat these issues, like have players be able to play without connecting to the Warner Bros. Network. I think that would have been the best situation. And then when the connection, just have it try to connect every couple minutes, and then when it does connect, then you'd have online play available to you. That's my first piece of feedback. Don't require the connection to the Mortal Kombat servers for even for the initial registration. Allow for for the full offline play, and then retry connections as the player is playing in the background. Otherwise, you end up with a situation like this. And I can imagine that this is only going to be an even worse problem on launch day, since they'll be adding the PC platform to the pool of connections. I know most people who consider themselves as part of the fighting game community generally tend to play on PC, since that potentially features the least amount of lag and the highest connection possible. Even in games of Street Fighter, I think most people are playing on PC there. That's not the majority of people that bought the game. I mean, the majority of people that bought that game are on the PlayStation 4 and 5. But as far as specifically for people that consider themselves part of the fighting game community, they tend to be PC players. Just for that reason, just the reduction of lag, and mainly that's it. You hear that constant bemoaning from the PC community about that, poor netcode ruining their matches, which is legitimate. These kind of games tend to be, things are down to fractions of a second. Some things only take a frame, out of 60 frames a second. If you're dropping 2 or 3 frames, then that would, dramatically decrease your window for when you can do an input, or even if you could do an input. And I don't know if Mortal Kombat has, single frame moves, but it might. Generally, Mortal Kombat doesn't have a restriction like that. The team usually makes the team's idea and philosophy behind the gameplay is to usually make the inputs easier to do and not make them harder to do, which is one of those things that is classically attached to Street Fighter and certainly the SNK series. I think depending, Blaze Blue tends to also be that way as well. Although they're trying to change that with Guilty Gear Strive. But if you play anything like Under Night or the previous Guilty Gear games, then inputs could be rather taxing from that company. Really designed for the hardcore. And it seems like Strive was an attempt to try to reduce that hardcore audience by making things a little easier to execute. I don't know if they were really successful with that. Well, my understanding is Guilty Gear Strive is the best selling of the Guilty Gear series of games. This may be just a video of me hitting the X button. So I apologize. I have no idea. I'm not one of the folks that Midway contacts. Not one of those influencers or whatever they want to call them that Warner Brothers cares about. So I'm just a regular customer, and this is the regular customer experience. So if anything, I think this is an interesting indication of maybe how your experience is going to be when it first launches. I hope this is not the case. I hope that when people, when this drops, the full version drops, that this is not the thing that you're going to be doing. But, I've never known a major game with an online component. There's potentially, millions of people connecting at once. The Mortal Kombat series sells significantly well, more so than any other fighting game series. And I think people tend to forget that since Mortal Kombat 9, it's been a multi-million-dollar launch for all these games. Much more so than even the very successful Street Fighter 6, which I think launched at like 2 million, maybe a little over 1 million, maybe not quite 2 million. But I imagine this will be significantly more than Street Fighter 6, as has been historically true. The marketing behind Mortal Kombat and really just the overall presentation and the ease of play really helped this series a lot. I think Smash Brothers Ultimate is still, at this point, the largest fighting game community as far as sales go. Not specifically for the people who call themselves the FGC or the fighting game community. Those folks are snobs about their about their games, and generally things that are made by Capcom are the only things that really rise to the top in that community, which is a real shame. It's like they're really, just as a whole, that very, very smaller subset of the fighting game, or people who play fighting games and enjoy them. They tend to only like games that are like Street Fighter, and those, or part of that series, the Street Fighter series. They tend to only like those games. So if a game plays, differently than that, whether it be Mortal Kombat or Guilty Gear, King of Fighters, those games tend to be, not the primary focus. Even though all those games are good, every game in both those series are really good. To enable screen reader, I probably don't need a screen reader. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's legally binding. There's actually no such thing as a legally binding end user license. We are on home theater. Wireless controller speaker, that is off. Script audio is off. Okay, so there's a good amount of accessibility options. I think my peak brightness is actually at 70, if I remember right. And for the sakes of YouTube, we'll increase it, or we'll decrease it a little bit so it doesn't look quite so washed out. It'll look a little washed out just due to the nature of the compression. Let's see here. So we've got health details, and then pause delay. Toggle whether the option button must be held to pause. Oh, that's for tournament play. So you don't accidentally hit the pause button, because then you get disqualified if that's the case, which, you know, whatever. Alright, we can remap our controls, which we'll probably have to do since I am using a hitbox, and these games are designed around the idea of using a default controller. Let's see, input window timing, special moves, input window timing. Let's go ahead and just turn that to long as the default, huh? Well, maybe I need it long. I have no idea. Release check, special moves are executed on button release, negative edge. We'll turn that off. Special moves require diagonal inputs. Oh, I mean, not that I can't do diagonals, but okay. Input shortcuts. Special moves require less directional precision. I think we'll go ahead and turn that off. Button shortcuts, we'll turn those on. And vibration, we'll turn it off. I don't have vibration in my controller. It is a aftermarket hitbox, so that's not going to happen. Alright, accessibility. So we already went through screen reader, descriptive audio. Folks for colorblind. I am colorblind, but I tend to... I mean, these settings tend to not help me look at colors any differently. Okay, then we have audio support, in case you want to turn that on. Okay, we've turned off all the other stuff. We don't really need it. Let's hit... Oh, there's no training mode available. Let's hit the towers mode initially. So we've got Sub-Zero, Kenshi, Katana, Liu Kang. Then Johnny Cage and Li Mei. I tend to be a Kenshi player, but I guess he's a fairly difficult player to learn in this game. Li Mei, I guess, being the you know, quote unquote easiest character to pick up and play. These were like the newest characters featured in Mortal Kombat, so I think a lot of people are curious about that. Then we've got Frost, Kano, Sonya, and Jax, and these are all their classic editions, classic costumes, and classic moves. Medium's fine, I guess. Yeah, look at these backgrounds. They're really, really impressive. Even something as simple as just the towers. And I'm going to apologize. I'm going to do a fair amount of pausing just to learn the moves. Okay, so we've got... I mean, I guess I could put another controller in here if I didn't want to be interrupted, but that's even more of a pain in the ass. Nova Blast, so back forward. We have back down. Or we have down back. So back forward, down back, and back forward with different buttons. A little cat break. gave her shot yesterday, so maybe she's not feeling 100%. Okay, so well, I see how this is going to go. Alright, I may need to plug another controller in. I don't know how good our practice is going to be without doing that, since there's no mode specifically. Okay, there's some crossover action. I don't know how you follow up that.
The past guides me.
Final round, fight.
I keep feeling Mortal Kombat is a game where you have to hit a block button.
Finish him.
Okay, okay, quite a few moves. Nowhere near as bad as like a Tekken style game where everybody has like hundreds of moves. So back forward, back X. Let's try that. Maybe it's not the right distance.
Lee May wins.
Yeah, it is a little bit slower paced of a game than, especially if you're coming off of Street Fighter 6. I think that was the major complaint from people in the the FGC. Although again, I do tend to preface that people in the in that smaller subset of people that like fighting games, that very very small tight community, they tend to only like games that play like Street Fighter and that pace like Street Fighter. So any game that doesn't have that same sort of movement or that same pacing, that's not running at 1,000 miles an hour, tends to be looked down upon in the community. Personally, I'm not really having that much problem with how the game is moving and playing. But I'm willing to accept something that's not at the same pace as something that has the word turbo on it. I think if you were specifically looking for a Street Fighter, paced game, then yeah, you could increase the speed like 20% or 10%, just overall, so that it'd give people that same sort of feeling. But you don't necessarily have to have a game like that. I mean, I tend to like things like Art of Fighting and Samurai Showdown, which are much slower paced games. And I accept them without having them being, fast turbo based games. Again, forgive me. I'm obviously not going to be an expert the first time we play, or the 4th time we play, or the 12th time we play. Sorry, don't know the distance. The motions are super easy. That's the only really good thing about them. The old combat days, older Mortal Kombat days, they wouldn't say they'd be complicated, but they'd certainly require more button presses. And the graphics are really impressive. Once you finally get the version, on your, 4K display. It looked very, very nice. Okay, it's sort of Virtua Fighter-ish jumping, in that you're jumping a little farther. A little farther than maybe you'd anticipate. Again, if you're coming from a Street Fighter perspective, you'd think that the jumping distance would be shorter. But if you're just coming from a Mortal Kombat perspective or a Virtua Fighter perspective, then there's really nothing wrong with the distances that you're going. Okay. The preset combos are pretty good. They feel nice. I suppose you guys want to see it anyway. Although again, most of all these moves have been spoiled already if you've been watching coverage of the game. So, which is why I was hoping that they'd have something new in here so that we could show people something interesting that they haven't seen before. That's not going to be the case here. I think Li Mei looks great. They really got Kelly Hu, from her late 20s or mid 20s maybe. I think they got her down pat. Not that she doesn't look amazing right now at her current age, but based on all the debacle with the Dead Space remake, I guess people just don't like older characters unless they're old men like Shun from from Virtua Fighter. Although I don't think he's a popular character either, so maybe people just don't like old people. I don't know. Okay, we'll wind up for her fireball, but I guess that's normal. I see, okay. I think a lot of people in the fighting game community tend to think of the games only in Street Fighter terms, I mean, even all of the shortcut language is also based around Street Fighter. So if somebody says they want to do if there's a DP move, an anti-air move, then it's specifically called a DP. The move itself may not technically be called a DP, right? But that's how they shortcut the language. Again, everything's centered around Street Fighter, or, not around any other games, because heaven forbid other games exist. Or other games that move differently and pace differently, I guess they shouldn't be made, Or if they are made, please adjust them to play like Street Fighter, because that's the only kind of game I want, apparently, if I listen to that community. But I'm happy when a game doesn't play like Street Fighter, if I'm going to be honest, because Street Fighter has a ton of games. The whole series between the Versus Street Fighter games, the Marvel collaborations, all of their their weird offshoots. There's plenty of games in that genre, from that company. So I like something that's different. I like a Tekken and a Virtua Fighter. I like a Mortal Kombat and Fatal Fury and King of the Fighters. I love things that are not like that, not like those games. Kind of something that I think that community hasn't come to terms with. That everything has to be a variant of Street Fighter, or else it's not good. Boy, Jax is quite the interesting cameo. But as a filthy casual, I guess that's probably what they would refer to me as. I don't find this play to be unpleasant, and this is after a lot of feedback from the community, where they've added the ability to dash and to block, which I guess was really hurting everybody's fifis in that community. So yes, now they get more Street Fighter-esque behavior, or at least behavior that maybe they preferred in past games of Mortal Kombat. Really? You block my combo? But I'm not going to be deeply analyzing this game either. I am going to play it for more casual purposes. And as soon as we do a little bit more practice with these characters, we'll go online, of course, for a little bit. I generally tend to not play ranked matches. I'm usually not interested in such a thing. And I always tell people that ask me why I don't play ranked matches. I just tell them that I have a pretty good job. I have a lot of confidence, and I've got a big penis, so I don't really have anything I need to prove. I mean, with all that, there's kind of no reason for me to prove myself amongst people who play fighting games in ranked play. It's like, yeah, I got everything else covered. Really, if you have all those things, then you don't need to compete in anything else in life.
Round one, fight.
Oh, ooh, interesting. Yes, I swear you will see me block at some point in time. Eventually, I'll get used to that block button. Maybe not initially. Yeah, I wish there was a training mode. This would be that'd be the first thing I usually do is go into a training mode. You know, set the dummy to neutral, learn the moves, and then set the dummy to do more advanced things, more jumping, jump blocks, and things like that. You know, it's sort of hard to learn like this. Although this is how you would have learned in the arcade. You know, in the old days. I mean, this would have been it. You would have just had one mode, and you played against somebody, and learn how to do the moves quickly, or else, you know. Yeah, look at the detail in the lighting, and the blood on the ground, blood on the uniforms. You don't quite get that level of detail like in Street Fighter 6, although that game has a very different visual makeup. You know, that's going for something way more anime than this game. Oh, that's right, the lamp. I'd say the hitbox responsiveness is really good too if you're playing on a hitbox, or maybe if you're learning or trying to use this game as a tool to play hitbox style controller. I think it's really good. You know, and since the pacing is a little bit more subdued than a typical Capcom fighting game, it's it takes a little you can perform or perfect your timing a little bit better. That's why I do tend to like the slower paced fighting games. I do tend to like Samurai Showdown a lot more. It's like, yeah, let me have a little bit more time to react, because I initially won't memorize a game when I first play it. It's just I don't have that ability. If you do have that ability, more power to you. Congratulations. I will say I still have those other three things that matter more to me in life. But if instantly playing a fighting game, if you want to take that in place of, having a nice job, self-confidence, and a big penis, if you want to slot that in there as a replacement for one of those, sure, great. I think you can still lead a happy life, Oh, interesting. Fake it too, huh? That is the worst way to end it. Well, I mean, besides, well, like, accidentally falling into a pit filled with poop. I mean, maybe that's the worst way to end it. But a small front kick is maybe the second worst way to end it. Maybe.
Finish her.
I have no idea. I have no idea how to do. I mean, I know how to do it. I just don't know what the distance is. Sorry to disappoint anybody out there who hasn't seen any of the fatalities by now. I imagine that's a fairly small audience for anybody who's watching somebody play beta coverage.
Round one. Fight.
Double frozen snacks. I don't imagine I'm going to get the CPU to jump. But if you're curious, my favorite fighting game of all time is Virtua Fighter 5, which is why I do kind of miss that the series hasn't had an entry in 10 years, or maybe it's been 20 years. It's been a long time, regardless. Then my second favorite, being King of the Fighters, with a subset of that, very, very closely being Fatal Fury.
Fight.
Then I'd go for Samurai Showdown and Mortal Kombat, which, again, I know I'm putting numbers behind them, but the numbers are not far apart, They really all belong in number 1. They're just like fractions of a number away from each other. Oh, okay, so that's one. I was wondering how I was doing that. It looks like the medium difficulty isn't classically punishing Mortal Kombat, which I'm all for. Old school Mortal Kombat, man, this even at medium, this the CPU would just be reading your inputs like crazy. Here, at least, it's probably reading your inputs, but it's giving you the illusion that it's not. What's her in-close move? She has like one that's... Scorpion kick is just high kick when you're up close. Yeah, that thing. Just because the arc looks like a scorpion, not because it has anything to do with the character Scorpion.
Finish him.
Am I doing it right? Maybe I'm not doing the motion right. Just backward back, right? Oh, we're not even gonna be given an ending? Well, that's slightly disappointing, but it is beta. Alright, so this is just... we'll stop it right there. This is audap. You're watching the Mortal Kombat 1 beta, or this is running on PlayStation 5. Again, if you have the premium edition, which is like $110, so yes, I hear you on that one too. You can play this on the Xbox series of systems or the PlayStation series of systems. PlayStation 4 and 5, I think, and then Xbox Series X and S and Xbox Series Tito and Tyrone, or whatever the names they want to give to that series. If you pre-ordered the game, then this will automatically download onto your system, assuming you have enough storage space. So you have access to that game right now if you've purchased the premium edition. Otherwise, we'll wait in another week, or is it 2 weeks, for the final release, which will have the full roster of characters. And I'm not sure if they have all the skins and the guest characters available or not. Probably not, but I guess we'll find out once the release day hits. We'll be playing plenty of this game over the next couple of days. This is only going to be available for the next 4 days, so this might turn into a Mortal Kombat channel just for a little bit, because I am anxious to play this, and so far I really like it. I do understand that there are people of the opinion that it needs to be as fast as a Street Fighter 6 or a Street Fighter 5. I totally get that. I get why people want that pace of play. That's what they're used to. That's their gameplay bias. That's what they come into when they play this game. And maybe they played like Mortal Kombat 9 or Mortal Kombat 10, and those games were also paced differently than this game as well. But if you come in from Mortal Kombat 11, if maybe Mortal Kombat 11 is the game that you've had more experience with, then this is closer to that pacing. A little bit slower than that, I would say, but again, closer to a slower paced game. So this is more like an Art of Fighting pace, which again, for me, I like pacing like that. I don't complain when a game runs a little slower. I also don't complain about the speed of the original Street Fighter 2 World Warrior. I thought that was fine. It was a little bit more fun when they decided to turbo. Or Champion Edition, but that was really also because of the addition of new characters. So I'm not totally stuck on a game needs to be like lightning fast. You need to press the buttons as fast as possible, and that's how you get satisfactory combat. I'm not that kind of person. I know a lot of people are, and if you are one of those people, then you're going to have to adjust to the speed of this game because it is slower. Again, I think like Samurai Showdown, not quite that slow. Art of Fighting, a little faster than Art of Fighting, but somewhere in there. But not as fast as Super Street Fighter Turbo, Street Fighter 6, not as fast as Mortal Kombat 9, not as fast as those games. But I think the graphics are excellent. I mean, I think these are quite a step above of Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 does look very nice, and I think there's some diminishing returns when you're talking about high fidelity images. But I think the backgrounds here, I mean, if you look even here on the title screen, there's a lot going on here. From its, that depth of field to the real subtle good use of particles, to the really good lighting engine that they have running in here. I think all those make a difference. All the materials on the characters and how they look even up close, I think those are very impressive. Even sometimes in Street Fighter 6, once you get kind of up close to a character, even though things are happening very, very quickly, you can kind of see some edges here and there. And that's not a knock on the game because it's going for a much, much different aesthetic look. So if you see a rough edge here and there, it's not that big of a deal. And most people wouldn't even notice it or care about it, quite frankly. And here, you see some rough edges here and there as well, but they look a little bit different. So I do prefer this style and proportion of characters in gameplay, which is why I like King of the Fighters and Virtua Fighter more, because they stick to, in the realm of possibility of a human character, of a living human character. You don't get like the super ridiculous portions, the big anime portions that you get in a Street Fighter or the Capcom series of games. Which is my preference. Again, that's why I like King of the Fighters more. I like Mortal Kombat more in terms of art style and how characters are composed. I think the pacing is fine in this game. I do understand that again, if you're coming from the Street Fighter world and you want every game to play like Street Fighter, then you probably want this game to be moving at least 10% faster, if not 15 to maybe 18% faster Unless they make some changes into the final game, obviously you're not going to get that. So you're going to have to get used to a slower paced game. You know, the combos are going to be a little slower. The movement's going to be a little slower. But I think also that Mortal Kombat historically has been sort of a spectacle game. There's definitely been that element of, you know, seeing cool stuff happen and not just zipping through animations as fast as possible. I don't know if that's philosophy is going to change. It probably will, because, you know, the team is, you know, again, they look at these influencers and people in the fighting game community, people who make videos, you know, people who respond to their feedback on their internal team, potentially, you know, talking about, you know, speed, faster. You know, I need to push buttons as fast as I can, and I need stuff to happen as fast as I can, so I'm pushing buttons as fast as I can. That's fine. I think there's a place for that, but I don't necessarily think there's a place for that in Mortal Kombat. Certainly not in the last couple of years. You know, going from 10 to 11, you know, they try to bring that rapid pace down. I think it's been to the benefit of the series. But you know, again, I know people that would disagree with that, you know, vehemently. And again, more power to you. Again, you know, slot that into your, you know, 3 things that I care about, and you know, if you're missing one of those 3 things, and maybe that's the thing that you can be proud of. But yeah, I'm very impressed. We'll play more. I'll get to know these characters more offline, and hopefully I can show you something a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to have like the best combo videos. Again, I'm approaching this from a more casual perspective, and if that's what you want to see and are happy to see that, then I'm going to provide that over the next couple days. So hopefully that's fun for you. But as for me, I'd recommend that you pick up this game if you like fighting games, specifically if you're into Mortal Kombat. I think you're going to be happy with it. If you were happy with 11, you're going to be pretty happy with this one. I think if you're more into 10, this is closer to 10. So it's not the glory days of 9, but it is closer to 10. And I think if you're that kind of person, you sit in there, then you're going to enjoy it. So pick it up for yourself. If you can't afford the premium edition, you know, the regular edition there is just fine. You just won't get the skins and the future character downloads. But pre-ordering does get you Shang Tsung, so there is that. No matter what, I don't know if they take away that pre-order bonus on the day of release. So that I'm not sure of. I'm sure there's going to be like a grace period when you can still get that character or purchase it separately. But yeah, I recommend it. Much like I recommend King of Fighters 15. I recommend Samurai Showdown, 2011 or 2021. And I also recommend Street Fighter 6. Recommend Tekken 8. They're all really, really great games, and they play differently. And that's okay. Calm down. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.